Hi, Mrs. Johnson. It's Jamie and Alex, and our topic is self-management behavior training. Our training will focus on self-monitoring behavior, which promotes internalization of self-regulating strategies and reducing problem behaviors associated with TBI. Steps include review and clarify an understanding of what is expected in the form of a checklist or a rating scale. And in our case, we're going to use a rating scale. Clinician modeling appropriate behaviors and defining inappropriate behaviors, practicing appropriate behaviors with assistance as needed, and having the client monitor actions by rating and reporting to clinician, who will then provide feedback and review the actions with the client. By developing these self-monitoring skills, target behaviors can be mediated with external structures and internalization of control over their own actions. And we're going to be working with Mike. And Mike is 20 years and 2 months. He's a college student studying liberal arts, and his deficits are in awareness and self-monitoring, and that's defined by impulsivity, anger, and frustration following a TBI. Poor Mike.
Hi, Mike. So the reason you're here today is since your accident, you've been coming back to school, you've been having some difficulty adjusting to your new schedule and people in your classrooms and your new professors. And last time you were here, you told me about some of the frustrations and the anger that you've been feeling. And the purpose of you being here is we're going to learn about some self-management behaviors that you can use in order to control some of those frustrations. So right here, what I have is a checklist. And what we're going to do is I'm going to have a version of this checklist, and you are going to have a version of the checklist. And at the end of our session today, I'm going to rate you on how I think you did, and you're going to rate yourself, and we're going to see if our ratings of your performance here are equal or if there's some discrepancies, and then we're going to assess why we think there might be those discrepancies. So let's go over this checklist first. The first one was I was able to control my frustration. So you told me last time sometimes when you're frustrated, you've been known to like break your pencil or something like that during your during class. Well, seriously, I was doing so well. Hi, Mike. So the reason you're here today is that since your accident, you've been having some difficulty with some frustration and some anger, and you've been having some impulsive behaviors, some difficulty adjusting to your classroom and new professors since you've been coming back to school. So the purpose of you being here today is we're going to talk a little bit about those anger and frustration that you've been going through, and we're going to address some issues that you've been having, and then also talk about some management techniques that you can use in the classroom to deal with your frustration and anger. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with this checklist. All right. And what we're going to do is you're going to have a version of this checklist, and I'm going to have a version of this checklist. And at the end of the session today, you're going to rate yourself on how you think you did, and I'm going to rate you on how I think you did. And we're going to see if our answers match up or if there are some discrepancies between how I feel you did and how you feel you did. And then we're going to talk about those discrepancies and see how we can, decrease some of these behaviors that you've been having. So let's go over the checklist first. The first number on the checklist is I was able to control my frustration. And these are all on a 3-point rating scale. 1 being no, you weren't able to control your frustration. 2 being sometimes you were able to control your frustration. And 3 meaning yes, you were able at all times to control your frustration. The second question is I was able to control my anger. Again, 1 being no, 2 being sometimes, and 3 being yes. Number 3 is I was able to control impulsive behaviors. 1 being no, 2 being sometimes, 3 being yes. And the last question is I used my strategies to help decrease my frustration and anger. So we'll talk about some of those strategies that you can use, and you can assess whether you use them or not at the end of the session. Again, 1 being no, 2 being sometimes, 3 being yes. I also want you to think about how you're doing throughout the session and evaluate yourself. How do you think you did? And then also, what can you improve on? Because there are always areas that are good to improve on. So now we're going to talk about some of the behaviors that you've been exhibiting within your classroom. Last time you were here, you told me that when you're frustrated, you just get up and you storm out of the classroom. Well, instead of doing that, if you're feeling those feelings of frustration coming on, maybe you can just raise your hand and say to your professor, hey, I'm really frustrated. I'm starting to get frustrated. Is it possible for me to go out, grab a drink of water, and come back and sit back down? Do you think that that would work for you? Good. The second thing is being able to control your anger. So not too long ago, you said that you got so angry in class that you just lashed out at your professor. I mean, do you feel like that's an appropriate reaction to have?
No, I don't think that it's appropriate. I just got really, really, really pissed off.
Okay. Well, if I were in your shoes and I was feeling angry about something going on in class, I would again raise my hand, let my professor know, and ask if I could get up, take a walk, take a breather, and then come back and sit down.
There's some good strategies.
Then also, as far as impulsive behaviors, you were telling me that sometimes you just call out and you don't raise your hand, and sometimes you can make off-topic comments. Well, if you have something to say, number one, it's important that you raise your hand so that somebody knows that you have something to say and they'll call on you. But also being sure that when you're making a comment in class that it's pertaining to the topic at hand. So if you have something that you need to say but it's off topic, wait until a later time, or maybe go up to the professor at the end of class or when you're on a break and let him know what you're thinking, him or her. Would that work for you? To wait to say what you need to say? Or
Yeah, I definitely think that it's something that I need to work on myself, but
okay, Mike, so now we're going to role play. We're going to pretend that I'm a student sitting next to you in class. So I'm in class. Let's say that I'm tapping my pencil while you're trying to pay attention. Well, first of all, how does that make you feel?
it makes me feel annoyed and maybe a little angry.
Okay, good. So it's good that you're recognizing those feelings that you're having. So what is something that you could do to maybe stop this from happening, stop it from continuing?
I could ask him to stop and tell him that it's frustrating me and recognize that I am getting annoyed.
Mm-hmm. Good. So those are the behaviors that we want to focus on. We want to focus on advocating for ourselves and asking people, to stop doing things that are bothering us in a polite way. Okay, great. So now that you know what to do, you just told me how you would handle certain situations, let's role play. So pretend again that I'm your neighbor in class and we're talking about the football game that you went to last weekend. Did you go to the football game last weekend?
Yeah, I went to the football game.
Mm-hmm. How was it?
It was cool. I went. I played football with my friends, and can you not do that? It's really annoying.
Sure.
Did you give me this?
I did not give you that.
Football.
Football? So what were we talking about?
Football game?
Mm-hmm. You had a good time?
Yeah, I had a good time. I went with my family, with my little brother. Had some hot dogs.
Good. All right. All right, so let's talk about how that just went, that little role-playing situation that we just did. Were you able to control your frustrations?
I think so.
Well, when I was sitting here tapping my pencil, I heard you say, that's really annoying. Could you not do that? Is there a better way that you could have handled that situation?
Yeah, maybe I could have been a little more polite.
Mm-hmm. And said what?
Can you please not do that?
Yeah. Good. Were you able to control your anger?
Sometimes.
I would agree with that. And what about impulsive behaviors?
I think that I didn't have any impulsive behaviors.
Well, when we were talking about the football game, you all of a sudden started talking about your pen,
Mm.
right? And that's really not on topic of what we were talking about, right? So overall, I think you did a good job, but let's get you to evaluate yourself. Like, do you feel like you used your strategies?
I think I could have done a better job at using my strategies. Maybe if I had been like a little more polite and like instead of like just lashing out about the pencil, maybe like saying something or just like taking a deep breath and kind of like not getting so frustrated about it.
Yeah. So that's good, and you're starting to actually self-evaluate. And all right. So now that we've completed our checklist, let's go through it and see if we agree on certain questions or if we disagree, and let's talk them out. All right. So number one, I was able to control my frustration. What did you rate yourself?
I said sometimes.
Good. I also said sometimes. I think you had a few frustrations, but once we talked it out, you got better. So the second one, I was able to control my anger.
I said sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's a good self-assessment. That's what I also put. And the third one, I had few impulsive behaviors.
I said yes. I think that I did a good job of controlling my impulsive behaviors.
Okay, well, I rated you as a 2 as sometimes because we were having the conversation about the football game. You started talking about your pen and going off topic. So that's an area where I would think that you would need to work on, and that all comes with time. And the last one is I use my strategies to help decrease my frustration and anger.
I think that I sometimes did. I think that I could have maybe been a little better, but I think that I did use some strategies.
Good, I agree. So moving forward, what do you think you did really well with today?
I think I did really well with sitting in my chair. I know that last session I was like getting up and moving around, so I think that I really worked on that. I didn't like say anything inappropriate or curse or break anything, so I definitely think that I improved with that as well from the last session. Some things that I could like work on. I definitely think that I still have some problems with obviously my impulsive behaviors and making off-topic comments.
Good. I would agree with that. Good. So I would say that since the difference between last session and this session, I think that you made a lot of improvement and you're starting to use your strategies and you're more self-aware than you were at one time. So you're making improvement every day, and that's what we like to see. So thanks for coming.
Hi, Michelle.